everyone. Welcome to Turtle Tracks Podcast. This is your host, Brian VanHooker, and I'm here with Beau Allen, who played Shredder on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Coming Out of Their Shells music tour. Beau, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Brian, so nice to finally connect with you. We've planned this for, it feels like decades, but it's probably more like a couple of weeks. And finally, we connect. And so I thank you for that. And I can't imagine why anybody would care anything about who the fuck I am, but I did play, in my own way, an iconic role.
Yeah, no, I think people be very... I've done a number of interviews on this show. I interviewed Bob Bajan, who kind of ran the whole thing. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes, I mean, Bob Bajan was Genesis, the spark, he's the creator, the guy who dreamed it up and was able to ad-lib endlessly in character, as mainly, I believe it was Michelangelo who did most of the talking, but he was the genesis of the whole project. He was the creative mind behind it. And he did a remarkable job. I mean, it was like flippin' incredible what he imagined, that these turtles that, you know, apparently live in the sewers of God only knows where and come up and like suddenly become rock stars. I mean, it's nothing short of miraculous. He was brilliant in that way. And so, you know, segue to how it affected my career. The only thing I can say is there are young men, particularly 30-something now, maybe even 40, because it's decades old, who remember me as this hateful, horrible character that I played, Shredder, you know, the Darth Vader of the piece. So, you know, I was able to embody that, and they hated me voraciously. I can't even think of that word. But anyway, they just hated. Listen, I did the flippin' Oprah show when we were in Chicago, and a whole audience of children booed me. Just booed me. And to be booed in that character was the equivalent of applause to a sympathetic character, somebody that we like and love. So I like took it on my booze and like let it feed me. So and it was a remarkable experience to get to play a character like that. Amazing.
You know, rewinding back, how did you what got you interested in acting to begin with?
I went to Tufts. I was a classmate of William Hurt in Tufts University. My freshman year was 1968, and I graduated in 1972. Now I've lost my train of thought. Brian, it's your turn. Have you had enough?
No, this is great. This is all good stuff. Let's see here. Oh, so when you got the job back in 1990, I'm guessing, or 89, what was your awareness of Ninja Turtles? Like, what did you know about it?
None whatsoever. And I'll tell you exactly how the job happened. I was living in Manhattan Plaza, and Sherry Seff was the casting director, and she called me up and she said, "Can you be on 42nd Street between this address? Was it between 9th and 10th maybe?" And she said, "Just be as evil as you can be." And I said, sure. You know, I had just that day. I was living there at Manhattan Plaza with my wife and daughter at the time, and so I said, "Sure." And so I went, and I, you know, went. I did things like that were like so essentially evil, that came out of an evil place in me, that they like, you know, said, "This is the guy." And I went up to replace somebody that they didn't like in the role, and I don't even know his name. and I wouldn't want to disparage him. I never saw. Actually, I did see his performance because I went up to Glens Falls, New York, literally 3 days later, and I learned the role, and I went out. I went on in 3 days, and then I went to Radio City Music Hall and opened the show, and we taped it for pay-per-view, which I'm sure is readily. Is it still readily available on YouTube? I don't know.
Yeah, that's on YouTube. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so that all happened within a week, and I literally had picked up my daughter at school that day, and I had put in at least one application to be a waiter, and someplace there in Manhattan. We were living at Manhattan Plaza, and it was I was what it's like I was in a I hate to use there's something about being desperate that underlines most actors' careers. There has to be a period in there where you're totally desperate and you're trying to like promote your talent and nobody wants to hear about it. And I was in that place and I was putting in an application to be a waiter, and I came home, and back then we didn't have cell phones, right? So we were like, it was like a machine that took messages for us, and I listened to the machine, and Sherry Seffs, the casting director, said, can you be at this location, which was just like 3 or 4 blocks from where I was living, at such and such a time, be evil as can be. And so that's what I did. And she got me the job. And just in the sense that I knew her, I lived in the same building with her. She was aware of me. She knew as an actor. She's heard my voice. She said, this is the perfect person for this role. She got me the role, Sherry Sepp. And for that, kisses. Thank you, my dear. Thank you for the role. It was, in my own mind, it was iconic, and in the mind of some young boys in particular, they tended to be boys, because literally here's a little story. When I played, when I played Radio City Music Hall and they taped it for pay-per-view, they had to extend some of the, it had to fit into what I think it was an hour and a half time limit that was provided on pay-per-view, and so they had to stretch. So at the beginning of the second act, I was asked to ad-lib something I did one time only, and only in front of the cameras, and it's all there, and I extended by strutting out onto the stage and belittling the punoids, the young boys that were there. And okay, here's an anecdote that only I could tell to you.
Sure.
One boy at Radio City Music Hall was taking his curled up hand in front of me, ever so shyly sticking up his middle finger to me.
I love it.
Yeah, that's what he did. And like you can't only I would have seen that, because I think I was the only person on the stage. But I mean, I had interaction with these little young boys. They were 7 to 9, 10. They were in that age range. And when I would go out of the venue where we were doing the show, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show, coming out of our shells, there would be a few of these young boys wanting me to sign their programs, and they were souvenir kind of programs that had pictures of what they were seeing. I mean, it's a memory, something that you can unfold and look at as a little boy and remember and when they would ask me to sign it, I signed everyone the same. Get a life, Shredder. Get a life, Shredder.
That's great.
That's the dynamic that I had as this evil character. And by the way, let your listeners know that I am not that person. And in fact, you want to hear the flip side of it? I'm I'm a I am a I am a soloist section leader, a job I'm extremely proud of at Southport Congregational Church. And so, okay, so evil shredder. So what I really am is praise to the Lord, and it's like it's the flip side of the coin. That is exactly who I am as a human being, and it's been a privilege to be there for all these years, singing and raising my voice to the Lord. And how ironic that Shredder is this evil, hateful person.
Let me ask you, when you got the part, did you go perform in Glens Falls, or was the first time you performed in the role at Radio City?
No, I did perform in Glens Falls. No, I performed in Glens Falls. I think I finished like the week.
Okay.
I mean, I think I watched 3 performances and then did it for 3 performances or something, and then maybe 4, and then opened it in Radio. We went right to Radio City Music Hall, and the next thing I knew, it was pay-per-view. And
so talking about Radio City, I mean,
yeah.
what was that mean? What was the experience like? Because you were there for a week of shows, maybe
2 weeks. It was 2
weeks.
weeks. And you know how big that venue is. So, I mean,
yeah.
It was pretty filled. I mean, there were enough parents, it was parents and young children. The Bob Bejan and imagined and hoped, I think, that the craze over the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles would be focused a little older as well, boys older, or children older, because there were some young girls as well that were there, but mostly boys. And but it turned out there just wasn't that kind of enthusiasm with the older boys. So they realized that their ambitions to really make a big splash in major venues over the country would have to be reduced. So they reduced it to a bus and truck tour, which is when we lost Sherry Scott, because she was, like, as she said, she was high maintenance, and she was a vital part of the show. I mean, this woman had a voice that could kill. I mean, and she's become a Broadway star. I mean, the voice on this woman was angelic. It just soared when she did her song. And she was a dear woman. And I was so sad when she left. But she left when it became a bus and truck tour after that. But we did, I'm sure the tour made money. People turned out to see it. I was the bad guy, and that will forever haunt me. I mean, the bad guy, me. I mean, I have a heart of gold, but I can play the bad guy if you need me to. So I did.
I guess Oprah came shortly after Radio City, correct?
We were in Chicago, and they filmed, of course, the turtles coming out of the sewers of Chicago.
Yep.
And banging on the doors and not being able to get into the studio where it was being filmed. I got there. I had one, I think it was a 90-second segment to do. And I did not meet Oprah before we filmed it. There was some go-between, I guess, that gave me a little instruction. And basically, I was to come from the back of the house and walk down the stairs where the audience was. I was part of the audience. And they had a mark for me to hit. And at that point, it was all ad-libbed.
Oh, I didn't.
I had a myriad of ad libs in my head to do, a myriad of ad libs. And what happened was that when I landed on my mark, the young boys, children in the audience, booed and hissed and hollered at me so loud that in my mind I was saying, would you just shut up so I can say these ad libs that I've got in my head? So, and finally, they died down enough to where I said, I called them, the the turtles. Um, I called them Michelangelo and the Green Supremes. And they were so angry. I mean, they'd never heard anything that was a total. That was the first time they'd ever heard that, and and they just recoiled. And of course, Bob Bejan and Tom White were backstage ad libbing for, the two turtles that actually spoke, Michelangelo and Donatello, I think it was, and they were furious. And it's so. I mean, it's a question of Bob Bejan, in particular, being so connected to David Shatraw, who played Michelangelo, who was a
Yeah, I interviewed David here. Actually, I interviewed David as well.
What an extraordinarily gifted, chatty, humorous, spontaneous, interesting person he is and
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Because I traveled with him for about 10 months. Love the man. He's just flipping amazing. What he was constantly entertaining. I remember him in the passenger seat of this bus in the front, and he would just lean around and say these remarks that were so witty. And I mean, I truly loved the guy. I loved him very dearly. And Randy, who I just saw in Florida, I was just in Florida visiting my parents. I just saw Randy Charnon, who was the stage manager of the flipping thing, and he was so flipping incredible. A dear friend, and it was just a magical thing that happened to me that fell in my lap, and I just got to do it, and it was a joy. It was a joy, and it brought me great acclaim amongst a certain, demographic of young boys who are now 30 something or 40 something, and every once in a while I'll meet them, and they're like flipping in awe of who they're meeting, and I'm going like, really? I mean, it's just me. I mean, it's like, it's weird. It's very weird.
Do you have memories of wearing that costume? How uncomfortable was it?
Um, it was not uncomfortable.
Okay.
The tunic wasn't real leather. It was like a plastic padded costume. It didn't hurt me in any way. The most the helmet. It was like having a football helmet on, only it had. In fact, it was probably made from a football helmet, though I can't tell you that for sure. But it had, horns on it, and so I mean, but it also restricted my vision because it was around my eyes, and not only was it around my eyes, but it was extended away from my eyes. So my peripheral vision was like completely blocked, I would say, and so that was tough. I mean, I had to, you had to look left and right and up and down to, actually see where you were. And at Radio City Music Hall, I had a better entrance than Angela Lansbury had at Mame, for crying out loud. I mean, that this cherry picker pulled me up onto the stage. This walk, this metal walk that was 16 feet above the actual stage of the Radio City Music Hall. I was lifted up onto a cherry picker with a black sort of a velvet material in front of me so that you couldn't see me rise because I blended with the black background. And I dropped the black velvet as fireworks went off. And I then strutted downstairs that were wheeled in to come up to that level. And the only line I can actually remember saying was, "Turtle, how nice of you to drop by." Something like that. Anyway, so that was sort of my performance of Shredder. And I sang a flippin', the rap song, "I Hate Music."
I was gonna say, do you
I
still
hate
remember your
music.
song?
Huh?
Do you still remember that song? I was gonna.
I don't. I hate music. No, I don't. But I could get it back very easily. I love it when they don't rehearse. It was, it was. I mean, I have danced on Broadway, so I could. They actually had some steps for me to do. But listen, it's gone on from there. I just did a musical at the at Don't Tell Mama on Restaurant Row in New York City. We appeared 8 Mondays in a row, so I did 8 performances of a new musical called Fifth Avenue, and it's good. And it's very good, and it's fun, and I have a great part in it, and it's going on to off Broadway probably in the fall, and we're all incredibly excited about it. It's a new musical in the same vision as an old time musical. It takes place in the 20s, and and I play kind of a gangstery role, like I'm the money man, and there are two business guys that I'm dealing with, and we have great music by Daniel, what's his name, and Susan Crawford, and it was Fifth Avenue. It's going to be huge. It was that good. It was that good. It's like, the rarity on Broadway right now is that there's nothing new. And it's like we have to recook a film that did great business into a new musical, whereas it used to be the other way around. It used to be some Oscar and Hammerstein found a book and they want to develop into a musical, and then it went on to be a musical film. But now it's the other way, and you can't sell anything unless it's associated with something we've already seen and we know the story of. But this is something new. So I want to say hallelujah to Fifth Avenue and my dear friends who made that happen. I love you guys, and I want this show to succeed. It deserves it.
When does it premiere?
Well, I mean, we've already done our little gig at Don't Tell Mama. It was a cabaret show. It was almost like a backers audition, and we did get a producer, RK. What is his name? RK. Oof. Anyway, he's got a history, and he's after it, and he's putting his energy and his efforts into making it happen. But it deserves to happen. It's like and this Daniel, what is your last name? His music just captures the era in an original way. He found a way to capture the era of the 20s, and it takes place just as the stock market crash happens, and so that's a whole nother level to the whole story. But this musical, in my opinion, deserves to be seen. It's good. I want it to go, and I do, and I have a great role, and I mean, I talk in a New York accent. I mean, there's another fine monkey. It's almost like Walter Matthau. It's that kind of a thing. And it's like something that I wouldn't ordinarily, I think, be asked to do. I'm kind of a character leading man, but not just a character. But this is kind of a character. But I get to play it, and it's a privilege to do it. Gotta say, privilege. Fifth Avenue. It should be. If anybody is out there listening to this, if you have if you have a regional theater or some small off-Broadway theater that is needs a hit, Fifth Avenue. I'm telling you.
All right, well, they've heard
You
it.
heard it here first. Yeah, it's lots
Here's a,
of
here's
fun.
a question for you. So you did Radio City and Chicago and a few other big venues. Then it became like a truck show. How long were you with the show for?
I believe it was 10 months. It
Oh
was
wow!
we even went to Puerto Rico.
I heard about this. So I
And
also
in
spoke to another guy who was like in the I don't know what the word is but like the advanced team who was like there, and he went to Puerto
yeah,
Rico. So what was that like? What was
yeah.
Puerto Rico like as Shredder?
Well, the most well, first of all, I got to say Puerto Rico was you went through poor land until you hit the resort. It was like finding the land of Oz, but the Munchkins were living in squalor. So that was weird. But then, in the actual venue, they hired somebody to do my voice, and because I don't speak Spanish,
Oh wow!
so somebody was like on a microphone, dubbing me, and I was just doing the motions, which was a very odd thing. And there was like no rehearsal, and it was like catch as catch can. Sometimes you're on it, and sometimes you're not quite on. I mean, how could you? It was totally unrehearsed. We just did it. Somebody read my lines in Spanish off stage, and I, was miming it basically with my body. Because, well, I mean, it may have worked. I don't know. It may have worked, but it felt very strange. Got to
I'm
say,
sure that sounds difficult. So, are there any other
it
memories
was.
you
It
have
was.
from are there any other memories you have from the road doing this show that stand out to you?
Um, I wow. I think you accessed parts of my brain about the show that I didn't know I had. Uh, I the irony for me is that I ended up sort of, having to give up a Broadway show for this a small, minute role in a Broadway show to be this and I use that term loosely, iconic character in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming out of our shell store, which some people remember, but the vast majority of humans on the planet do not. And
Right.
and yeah, but it's like it has this small audience that just remembers it in a way that is unforgettable for them. I mean, in the same way that I would say, oh, this may be really going too far, but I mean, imagine seeing The Wizard of Oz. It's almost it's a children's thing that captures your imagination at a certain point before you've reached adolescence, and somehow it becomes ingrained into your psyche. And so there are people out there. All right, well, let me just say, okay, I'll say this. Somebody paid me, well, I think it turned out to be $65 for my signature on a copy of the tape
Sure.
of the pay-per-view. Somebody sent it to me was it their son or I think it was for their son, and I signed it, and I got a check, and yeah. So just so you know, my signature is worth $65 right there for the rest of time. So don't ask for an autograph unless you've got $65. No, that's not true. I'm sure I would sign for nothing. But anyway, that's actually what happened. I think, and I probably wrote on something like, get a life. I don't know what I said.
Sure.
But it's like, it was transacted. I think it happened through Facebook, totally through Facebook. I mean, how else would anybody find out who the fuck I am? Excuse my French.
Here's a question for you. So the show, at one point, the show ended, and at one point, for some period of time, they did like a follow-up show called Getting Down in Our Town. Shredder's in it briefly, but I couldn't tell if it was you or not because it's such a terrible quality video. Do you know if you did that? I'm so curious.
No, I'm not even familiar with what you're talking about.
Okay, I wasn't sure. It looked like it was even maybe but it was terrible quality to the point where I was like, I have no idea if this is him or not because it was something else. So.
I'm saying probably not.
Cool. Beau, I have one last question for you. I always end this, so if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But I always ask people who your favorite turtle is. So do you have one?
Well, I would have to say Michelangelo, mainly because it was voiced, he didn't voice it, but it was such a perfect pairing between Bob Bejan, who voiced the character, and David Chatra, who mimed it with his body, which was a remarkable. Each of their contributions to that character was equally valuable. I mean, it was pretty incredible to see. David Chatra was able to bring whatever Bob Bejan said into his body and produce it, even if he had, like in particular, thinking about the Oprah show, he was able to do it, and the melding was, I gotta say, flawless. It was flawless melding of somebody else's mind and somebody else's body, and I was in awe of that.
Cool. I am all set here. Thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful. I really appreciate it. This was great.
Okay, Brian. You take care.
Pleasure talking to you. Take care.
Any questions? I hate music! Music! I hate music! I said music! I hate music! I hate music! I hate music and you heard it first! I love it when the band is under rehearsed! I hate music! I think it's the worst! The gift of song is the gift I curse! I hate music! I said I think it's the worst! I despise the sound of an infectious beat. I hate it when I keep tapping feet, dancing and singing in the street. I hate music. I think it's the worst. Say that music is good for your soul. I don't know. It's not my goal. I destroy music every day. You're listening to the words I say. I control the world because the music is gone. I am the leader from now on. Do you hear what I'm saying? I hate music. I think it's the worst. I hate music. And you heard that first. Got the picture? I hate music. Yeah, hate it. That's right, buddy. I said it before, now the turtles are gone. I am your leader from now on. You're violent and straight to the shredder. Follow my orders, baby, you better hate music. You think it's the worst. Yeah. Listen to the words I'm putting down. There ain't no happiness, only this sound. I hate music. I think it's the worst. The gift of songs is the gift that's